Hi, I'm Phil Malto. Welcome to Snowmobiler Television. On today's show,
Phil, there's a new sheriff in town. Hey, I'm Pat Bourgeois, Snowmobiler Television, and today we're going to go visit with my good friend Roger Skye in Skye, Minnesota. We're going to his ranch and we're doing a little bit of riding. Plus, we're going to go see the coolest Artic Cat dealership you've ever seen. Tom Rowland has some of the most amazing and eclectic sleds in his collection, and we're going to check them out. Boom!
STV is sponsored by Yamaha, revs your heart. Kimpex, fueled by fun. And by CKX, wear your passion.
You know, back in the early 1970s, black cats like these littered the trails. Artic Cat was king, and in 1 year alone, they made over 100,000 panthers. Well, the 1966 Panther is iconic, and one of the men primarily responsible for it is Roger Skye. We go visit Roger on his ranch, feed the cattle, do a little bit of riding on the sled that bears his name, and find out he's a cowboy. Some of us know, I'm going to say the Roger Skye story, because we're fans of Roger, because we love Roger. But then we're like, there's a lot of people that are snowmobilers that really don't know the whole story. You grew up on a farm, right?
Yep.
Your dad was a farmer?
Yep.
Most farm boys would just end up being a farmer.
I wanted to be an engineer.
You did?
Yeah. When I left Rosa High School, I went to Bemidji State College, and I graduated in 61 from Rosa. In the fall of 61, I went to Bemidji State, and they had 2-year pre-engineering course down there, and then I was finished it at Minnesota. I went to Bemidji for 1 year, and I had to borrow money to go to school because we were poor. We didn't have no money on the farm. And gas is 25 cents a gallon, and you get $1 an hour working, and I'd borrowed a lot of money to go to school, so I said, I better find some gainful employment for a little while here and put a little money away and then go back and finish school. And it just happened I came through Thief River, and I knew of players in Roseau, and I knew of Edgar Hetteen in 1961. He had moved down to Thief River and started building snowmobiles. So this is 62, in the spring of 62, I think it was June or something. So I stopped at what was called Polar Manufacturing then, and I would think there was 4 people working there, and I just inquired about if there was any gainful employment to have. Yeah. And said, what can I do for you? And I said, I'm looking for some gainful employment. I've been going to school at Bemidji, and I'd like to get some gainful employment for the summer so that I can continue my school. Edgar, you got a telephone call. So he took off, and I'm standing there, and I'm standing there, and I'm standing there, and he dropped his nail apron there, and he had that box he was nailing that crate together, and I said, I can't take it anymore. So I grabbed that nail apron, I hammered that crate together. He came back and he said, what do you want again? I said, I'm looking for employment. And he looked at me and he said, when can you start? He said, that's how I got my connection with Edgar, and that was 1962, and that became my... Edgar didn't give me a job that day, he gave me a life, and that life has been something that I've been blessed with over the years, that I was able to do the things that I love to do, go to work every day and not say, gee, this job, I can't stand it, I just don't know why I keep going here, you know. Yeah. So it's become a life for me, and I've been so blessed because of that.
I don't know of anybody more passionate about snowmobiling than you. Like, why?
After about a year, I think, 63, somebody told him that I'd had 1 year of school in Bemidji, you know, because I told him I went to school, and he never asked what I was going to school for, because I'd had some engineering drawing class and stuff, and so he asked me if I'd do some parts books. And then after I'd done some parts books, he asked if I could help him evenings when he's building parts for new ideas in snowmobiles. And I attribute my curiosity and keen interest in a snowmobile because of how Edgar related to me and managed me. You know, he would give me something to do, whether it was bending up some sheet metal or machining out some parts or whatever, and his relationship with me was one where if I got done, he'd draw something on the floor with a chalk, a part, and he'd say, "Can you make that?" And I think I know what you want. I think I can make that. And I would go ahead and make it. He'd go off and do something else. Sometimes I had that part what he had in his head. I had made it the way he wanted it. And he was happy about that. He'd give me a pat on the back, you know. And that pat on the back was worth more than any money that he could ever give me. And that wasn't the most important thing about that relationship in Edgar, because there was times when I would make something, it was not what he had in his head. It was not what he wanted. And Edgar didn't he never said, "Roger, you dumb little kid, that is not what I wanted. Why did you make it that way?" He never would say that. He would look me in the eye, and he'd kind of grin, and he'd say, "Roger, what do you think of this idea?" And I'd have to go make it over again. I would have worked day and night for nothing, making that thing over again, because of how he related to me as an employee, I guess. And that's the kind of the model that I led my team with, the snowmobile engineering team at Artic Cat, for quite a few years, 50-some years.
Yeah.
And understanding the skills of people, understanding the abilities of people, understanding the humanness of people, and how important it is to be appreciated, to me is so critical on putting together a team that can be or cannot be successful.
Yeah.
Roger was a huge influence on my career. One of my first races venturing back east. Anyway, it was a timed race, one of my first ever cross-country timed races, and I was apparently about 10 minutes in the lead and could see the finish line, and somebody had rolled a rock out into the trail, come approach, caught the rock, ended the sled, tore the clutch off of it, and couldn't get it to the finish line. And after the race, Roger come up and just talked and cheered me up and everything, and talked me into coming over to the Artic Cat plant, because the I-500 was in a few weeks, and he says, "You're going to need some parts." And yeah, we need some parts for sure. So got over there, and he went in and drove a brand new sled out of the race shop and drove on our trailer and said, "There's your parts."
One of my favorite things about Roger is his passion for racing. He's so dedicated to racing. He just loves to be at the track and cheer everybody on, and he's always one of the very first people to congratulate me after a win or a good race. And he's always there also if it's a bad race to, give me some support and just be a friend. So he's a super caring, passionate guy, and a lot of fun to be around for sure.
You didn't know about the Roger Skye sled, did you?
No, I did not. I did not.
How did that make you feel when you saw that?
Humbled, very humbled. Very humbled, Pat, but also very appreciated. I've been paid with joy and satisfaction over and having the opportunity and the honor and the privilege of working in this industry for 50 plus years. So, I mean, I've gotten my pay, I've gotten my joy, but to have our company, Artic Cat, somebody in the company decided that it would be a nice tribute was humbling to Roger, very humbling to Roger, but very appreciated, very appreciated.
You know, last 5 to 10 years, vintage snowmobile collecting has exploded. Guys all across the snowbelt are finding old sleds and digging them out of barns and restoring them. Now, a lot of guys like to collect the rare stuff, you know, the 1 of 100 stuff or the few vintage race sleds that they find. We found a guy, Tom Rowland, at his Artic Cat dealership in Ogilvie, Minnesota, that collects the 1 of 1s, like the very first Firecat, or perhaps a prototype IFS sled that nobody has ever seen, even the old Artic Cat race trailer. Let's go check it out. Ah, it works. Beer time. So the 82, Artic Cat went out of business,
Yep.
and obviously they're building the prototypes
Yep.
for the following year to get photos.
They
of
had a
Artic
full
Cat,
line
right?
of sleds mostly ready to release, and yeah, most of them made it out to the photo shoots, and you know, 20, 30, 82 prototypes just kind of got sold off to the wind, and we've been able to find a surprising amount of them, actually. Maybe half of them are accounted for. I don't own them all, but some fellow collectors do and such. And yeah, kind of a neat little survival. We joke about it sometimes when we do find one sitting in a barn or it surfaces somewhere. There might be 4,000 or 5,000, 6,000 miles on it. And it's interesting that something that was put together just for engineering or photo purposes went on to be used that much. But yeah, this is an actual 66 Panther. Not too many of them were around.
Yeah, how many of those?
Oh, that thing would have Roger Skye's fingerprints all over it, I'm sure. Yeah, I think they made 21 of them. This is possibly one of the earliest UTVs as we know it. Artic Cat and Edgar Hetteen hand built that. And in physical size, it's not that much different than some of our UTVs today. Pretty capable machine, and when the term gets tossed around something might have been ahead of its time, I always think of this because it's not that different from what we have fun with today.
Had the shock reservoir mount on top of the...
Yeah, isn't that odd? That's one of the things we find interesting. Yeah, some of the ideas that are shown on there did eventually make their way further into the industry, maybe on other brands too, and other things never made it a step further, and it almost seems like for good reason.
Let's go find... We should go find some of those.
Yeah, let's do that. Yeah. Here's a lot where the machines are in for our service department. These are either done waiting to be picked up or maybe they're waiting to be fixed.
I think people forget. We get so focused on new sleds.
Yeah.
Like new, that you could drive a 10, 15, 20-year-old sled.
That's right.
And have just as much fun.
Just as much fun. Yeah. And
You know,
there's not
obviously
the need for the brand new one.
manufacturers want to sell a new one. You want to sell a new one.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah. When they're done with these old ones, yeah, we're
gotta
here
still
with
get
the
out
new
and ride
ones.
'em.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so we're always glad to have the service, no matter what age the machine might be.
I like this one.
Big.
I stand up when I ride.
Yeah, tail draggers like you. That's perfect for you, Pat.
I think it needs more riser.
I think it does. Yeah. You know, when we're talking about the stuff that comes in for service, I'm reminded of this 1964 Artic Cat that a gentleman brought in here this autumn. He's owned this.
Did it actually get serviced?
He did, believe it or not. He's owned this thing since 1974. He didn't get it brand new. Got it in some trade. I think he said he got it for $25 in 1974, and his kids rode it for a decade. And he's not really looking for a full restoration on it, but he wants it up and running, get some seats on it, get the lights working, and get it ready for the next generation.
Wow.
I thought that was cool.
Needs more riser.
This is Mabel. When we were little, she would pull us on sleds before we had snowmobiles.
Wow.
That's how long we played in the winter.
A lot of ponies.
Is this considered a one horse or is this a half horse?
Half horse. Boy, I just about didn't get to go snowmobiling.
How's that, Phil?
Head in, let's take a look. Here's where's a lot of the 1982 prototypes that Pat was asking me about. Here's one of their examples of a direct drive model, no chain case. I think that other manufacturers had spent some time on direct drive back in the early 80s as well.
Yeah, you had Spitfire and the Polaris
Yeah.
Star.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But they never manufactured direct drive.
No,
Artic Cat, just this
right, yeah,
prototype.
just in these prototypes. The Puma, the Jag had it. Yeah, we're always looking for anything that shares Artic Cat history. We found an opportunity some years ago when this trailer was being sold by Artic Cat. It looks like just simply an old storage trailer, which it has been. But back in the 70s and part of the 80s, that was the trailer that served as the team hauler for the Snow Pro race team.
Oh, really?
The Bob Elsners, the Jim Dimmermans, those are the guys that raced out of that, and it surely needs a restoration, and that is being talked about actually as we speak. I'm eager to show this to you, Pat. It's a 1979 Transtar, and it is one of the legitimate old Arctic Enterprises truck. I can't say for a fact that this is the truck that pulled that race trailer, but it's certainly just like it. Old Arctic Enterprises insignia on it, and much like the trailer, it does run, it does go down the road, but it surely is awaiting a good restoration. Pretty basic truck by today's standards, but I'm sure in 1979 it was the king of the road.
That, look to that trailer restored would be.
That would be fun to pull into
Something else.
Lake Geneva with that, wouldn't it?
That is so cool.
Yeah.
Hey guys, Pat Bourgeois, Snowbiller TV. We're going to do a little trailside cooking with the 3 Muffalitos. You know what's up next.
What's the stuff in the muff?
Let's eat. This week, Fluff, what do you got for us?
We are doing a hoagie bake.
A hoagie bake. Awesome.
Yes, sir.
What do you got to put in it? Let's
First
go
of
through
all,
the ingredients.
We have our crescent roll mix. Make it nice and easy. Lay down a nice layer of crescent roll pastry.
On top of the parchment paper.
I'm sorry, I apologize. Yeah, you gotta add the parchment paper.
Very important.
Parchment paper is your friend. Paper that does not burn.
Okay.
Then you lay down, you gotta have your salami. As you say, the 3 meats. Pepperoni,
Pepperoni,
ham,
ham, the 3-meat trio.
the 3 meat trio.
Nice.
Now here comes the 3 cheeses. We have our Swiss, provolone. Then on top of that, we'll put down our egg, a beaten egg.
Okay.
Our final layer of the croissant pastry.
When you beat an egg, is that, do you do it like?
That's kind of personal. I don't want to get into that.
Right. Okay. And then
With the rest of the egg, we do an egg wash on top that makes it nice and brown. Sprinkle on some Parmesan for the crispy look. Pop in the oven for the traditional 350 degrees Fahrenheit for our American friends.
okay.
Bake it for 35 minutes.
Right. Now it's all ready to go.
It's ready to go.
You do this the night before, right?
Always night before.
Before you go on your big burn, right?
Exactly. You got to plan ahead.
Plan ahead,
so you
bake it, chill it, and then comes ride day,
You stuff it in the muff pot.
stuff it in the muff, and this comes out looking fantastic. Let's go bake it.
Let's go eat.
Boys, is it cooked?
It's
I think
cooked.
so.
It's cooked, dude.
Oh, yeah,
at
she's
that.
golden.
Hold on tight.
Hoagie bake.
Hoagie bake. Look here, Seagull, you hungry?
Yes.
Seagull can eat that thing with the helmet on. The new Titan helmet, it's got a whole nother level.
Well, there you have it, kids. Another successful Trailside cookout with the Muffalitos. To find out what's stuffed in their muff, you can visit us on our website.
Today we're outside of the usual shop. Today we're in Jeremy's garage because Jeremy's doing a full tear-down rebuild. Everybody wants to get into vintage sleds and into vintage racing. So Jeremy, what are you working on as your personal project and how are you getting it done?
Well, Phil, I've basically recently bought a 1979 SRX 440 Yamaha.
A beautiful sled, a legend.
A legend. Picked it up at a swap meet and now been collecting parts and getting it ready for maybe some racing in the future.
You're into a vintage sled here, a vintage rebuild. What are we going to do for parts?
Well, we're going to go to Kimpex and we're going to basically look at some of the products they have to offer, and we're going to rebuild their suspension. We're going to get stuff like bearings from them, which they have available for all the older models. And we've got a variety of products. When we get into our engine, we're going to end out getting the gasket kit, which is also available from Kimpex, and kind of go from there and just take it segment by segment, and we're going to rebuild this machine.
Well, that's really interesting because a lot of people I know who've gotten into vintage rebuilds, you get into stuff like fuel pumps and carbs. There's a lot of work to do there, but we can actually get brand new parts instead of trying to fix the old. That's a great way to go about it.
You definitely can, and Kimpex is not only a distributor of their own product, but they'll redistribute others' products. And this is here an OEM Mikuni replacement. So you can get that and it replaces it just like the original.
You go online, you find your old vintage sled, or you go to a wrecking yard, and then you go new with new parts from
www.kimpex.com.
I'll see you in turn 3.
Right on.
STV is sponsored by Yamaha, revs your heart. Kimpex, fueled by fun. And by CKX, wear your passion.
A lot of insight and a lot of history on today's show. And speaking of history and moving forward, Pat, where are we going to go with the show?
Enough about your age, Phil. We'll get some makeup to take care of whatever you got going on there. You know what we're going to do? We're going to have some fun with this show. We're going to sample some hot sauce. We're going to maybe do a little cooking with a muff pot. We're definitely going to drink a couple cold ones. And, of course, we're going to go do some riding.
Let's do this.
Right on.
Bang. That's how we do it.
Boom. I can do without the fist bump.
Yeah,
that's kind of bad.